Okay, we're here covering Chicony vs. Midas from round 2 of TTAC. Games are going to be coming out kind of intermittently. I was going to have them come out in order, but doing the videos with Piggyman, I really wanted to get those out when the tournament was happening. And this is another one I want to get out soon because I think it is a match that is in contention for best match of the tournament. And thus, I really want to make sure I've covered it and looked at the games so that I can, adequately give it credit. Midas might start a streak of everyone who beats Midas has to play the best match of the tournament, because Selder vs. Midas was my pick for Triad Wars. Uh, what was the pick for Nephilim? I didn't do one for Nephilim, and I don't know what it would be in retrospect. Probably best we ignore that and move on. But maybe at some point I'll go back and look at Nephilim. Anyway, I thought this was a really cool match. I haven't looked at the games in super depth. I've kind of skimmed through to get the idea of them, have a few thoughts ready to go so I wouldn't just be staring confused for a bit. Elemental's really tough for me, so, not a rule set I find naturally. Also, huge thanks to Chicony. He very nicely printed out all the screens for me after the game, resetting up the position. You'll also note it tells you what decks and rules were in play, so we can see the stips use at least 2 level 6s and 2 level 7s, thus 1 level 8. Plus wall combo elemental. Stip rares and semis are allowed, and he shows the current score. Really nice of him to put that together. You can also see who's playing. I really appreciate it, and we'll be screenshotting from his stuff. Now, if we look at the elementals, we'll notice there's a couple cards Chicony has that could hit the water in 5, and there's 2 cards Chicony has that can hit the fire in 9. Midas making a hand much more how I would make one, which is to say, not at all concerned with having the elementals, but instead kind of picking a card you like for each of the corners, and then maybe a card that could perform double duty or do some other things like the 6/8, 6/1. Probably not the exact same card selection. I really like 8/7/6/4s. I did play this rule set. I don't know what I put together, but I did not value elementals at all and ended up losing to a player that very much did. So Chicony started, as I think he has a want to do, with a very strong corner in 9, using that element. Now, Midas has combo play against it in 8, 6/8, 6/1, and 8. And given that combo play, and given this +1, it is impossible for Chicony now to ever play next to his starter. And so he has good recaptures. He has the 5/6/7/7 for 6. He has the 4/8/6/7 for 8. But he has no way to play next to it and not be combo susceptible, right? And Midas only has the combo in 6, so this in 8, so this is only scary if he goes in 6. But he has no way to go there without immediately having a bunch of cards both captured and 9 locked in. And I think this is the real danger of a strong corner susceptible to combos. Now, he does have some potential setup play. For instance, if 8/7/3/4 lands in 7, then suddenly 5/6/7/7 has both 6 and 8, right? There's not a way to set up 4/8/6/7 the same way to have both 6 and 8. It can only be an 8. But the hand has some ways to build such that you have multi-purpose cards. And I think if you're going to play one of these strong corners where they have combo play against it, it's a nice idea to have that type of setup. Now, given that Midas has such good play in 8, I think he should play to set up 6, and I love his next move. I think it's the move that immediately jumps out to me as this should be very strong and effective. He now has 8, but he also has 6 with 7/7/6/4, and very importantly, it's not a shared combo. So Chicony does not have cards that super comfortably land in 6. What's more, that 7 facing to the left is safe to Chicony's hand due to the elemental in 2, so Midas is a serious threat to make a move, even if he doesn't want to capture, just play something like 9/5/2/9 and 6. Now, my first thought was that's safe, but it actually isn't safe, because 4/8/6/7 has the plus in 5. The water elementals in 5 are going to be really relevant to the calculations here, and I'm probably going to get some of them wrong. So if I do, please have patience, and also please comment and tell me where I got my calculations wrong, because I'm going to be making mistakes here. First of all, I can't have checked it, but even aside that, I miss elements all the time and how they interact with the game. So I really love this move. It's exactly what I'd be trying to do if I was Midas. Note, Midas does not have a recapture in 2, but he will never need one because this card happens to be, as well as like, the reason I check this move is because it sets up 6 in a way I want to set up 6. But you look at it further and you realize this move is simply safe. Right? This is just a safe move. This is a very powerful move. It's good on a lot of levels. And in my opinion here, Chicony should be under pretty significant pressure. And he finds an incredibly creative solution to this problem. I think one move to consider would be 8, 7, 3, 4, and 7. One downside is Midas, again, has good combo play on it. Specifically, Midas has the combo in 4, the plus wall, which means Chicony would have trouble playing in 8. And so, like, yes, he really sets up 5, 6, 7, 7, but at the same time, his cards are so vulnerable to lots of stuff there. It's so hard for him to go next to his corners, and Midas has so much combo play off them, that I think that's a really dangerous way to try to play. It might be fine, but it can also be really high risk. If you ever block 6, Midas probably just takes the combo in 8, and you're pretty far down. And even if he doesn't go in 8, maybe he goes in 2 or something like that, and it's hard to come back from. I think this is a really difficult position for Chicony, and I think his move here is really cool. Just a really fascinating solution to the problem. Fundamentally, I think it's really hard to keep 6 and 8 open, because unless you exactly go in 7 here, you're never going to have a card that's good for both spots. And 5, 6, 7, 7 isn't even that good for 6 because it never flips 3, and it's easy for Midas to, go in 8 at some point without flipping 9, but doing something else useful, and the 5, 6, 7, 7 might be kind of dead in 6. And similar for the 4, 8, 6, 7, and 8. That's often not, taking extra cards there. So it's really hard, I think, if 6 and 8 are left open. But it's also really hard to occupy 6 or 8 because you're so immediately comboed. And he finds a way to do so, and I think this is just a really interesting move in a position that to me looks really tough. Midas has combo play against your starter in 9. Midas is a safe card in 3. Midas has a pretty good hand remaining. A lot of cards facing towards the action of the game. So to me, this is a really cool solution if it works. Now, one thing to note is it does deny 9, 5, 2, 9, and 6, which may have been the main threat, but may not have been because 4, 8, 6, 7 covers it. But now it's completely denied. It's both covered by 4, 8, 6, 7 and by pluses, right? There's not going to be safety there. I think the obvious move is 7, 7, 6, 4, and 6. And that's going to flip 9, which is going to flip 8. It's going to put Midas up 7 to 3. I have to imagine the response is in 5. I suspect Chicony's plan, and I think it's an interesting plan, a really good plan actually, is 5, 6, 7, 7, and 5, which gets the +1, which means it flips 8 back. So that's going to make the game 5, 5. At the same time, it is safe towards 4 to Midas's hand. Midas has used 7, 7, 6, 4, so he doesn't have the plus wall, and his 8s cannot flip its 8. Furthermore, it's also safe facing 2. Because even though Midas has a 7 facing down, that gets the -1, that becomes a 6. The 6 down can't take it, the 7 down can't take it, the 2 down can't take it. So it's 5, 5, and the card in 5 is actually just safe. And even more than that, it sets up a plus in 2. And it controls anything Midas would put in 7. If Midas plays 9, 5, 2, 9, and 7, suddenly 4, 8, 6, 7, and 4 has a plus with the 7 facing left to take the 9. Anything else can be covered by 2, 6, 8, 6. So a really interesting plan. Now, I suspect that position is still a tie. For instance, if we say 7, 7, 6, 4, and 6, Midas is up 7, 3. 5, 6, 7, 7, and 5. It's 5, 5. Now, say Midas goes 6, 8, 6, 1 in 7. Midas takes a 6, 4 lead. And if Chicony plays in in 2, he can play the plus in 2 to make it 5-5 with 2-6-8-6. But either that gets comboed plus walled back by 4-8-7-6, or Midas could play 9-5-2-9 and 4, and 4-8-6-7 can't take it. So 2 can't win. It might lose, but it definitely can't win. I'm just making sure we don't lose. Because I know Chicony has at least a tie there, so I'm seeing if we lose, and I don't much... If a move happens to lose for the opponent here, I know they're not going to play it, right? Chicony could also start by going in 4, say with 2-6-8-6 to take a 6-4 lead. And this is where the problem comes. Yeah, that actually is winning here. Yeah. Because 4-8-6-7 completely sweeps 4-8-7-6 on the top row. Using that 7 left, it can take any 8. So yeah, okay. So is that move actually just a win? I wasn't sure when I checked earlier. Again, I didn't check in massive depth. So I guess Midas also was the choice to start in 2. There is no safety in 2, but Chicony lacks up. So if you start with something... Say Midas starts with... So the game is going, we're saying 7-7, 6-4, and 6. 5-6, 7-7 in 5. Let's say 4-8, 7-6 in 2. The game is still 5-5. But the problem is 4-8, 6-7 takes you from 1. No, it doesn't. 2-6-8-6 takes it from 1. Yeah. And you can only take back with a 2 facing down. Okay, so maybe this does just win. Yeah. Chicony had said Midas found an incredible tie here, and I kind of thought 6 shouldn't lose, but maybe 6 just does lose. That's really cool. Yeah, so that's pretty incredible. Again, I'd love if someone else checked my analysis here. I could very easily be missing something. But yeah, no. I think this is a really incredible trap. Really just an incredibly powerful element in 5, and Chicony having a wonderful feel for it. And to see he can sacrifice the corner in 9 to get the 7-7-6-4 out of the hand and have this kind of play and control. That's a really marvelous conception. Midas avoids 6. This is a really well played match. Midas plays safely in 7. Now this is obviously a move you check, but 6 is so tempting. It's easy to just go there because 5 is a pretty unusual way to get in trouble after that. And here Chicony still grabs the use of the elemental, and now we have to find ways to tie. Now, because we've already talked about this card landing in 5, we know it sets Chicony up in both 2 and 4 here, right? 4-8-6-7 has the plus in 4, and 2-6-8-6 has the plus in 2. Now, 6 is kind of a dead square. So the first, the obvious square to go if you're Midas is, go in 6 and combo Ifrit, right? So 7-7-6-4 and 6. That flips Ifrit, that flips Flame Eater in 8. It does not flip 5. That plus 1, again, is so powerful. And so that looks like it locks in a whole lot of cards for Midas. He would take a 7-3 lead. But after probably, let's say after 4-8-6-7 in 4, that's going to combo back, that's going to take 7, which is going to combo back 8. That's going to make it 5-5. Again, 5 never flipped. 5 is so powerful. And 2-6-8-6 is guaranteed to capture on the end. And likely more than 1, right? If it lands in 2, it's going to flip 3, which will also flip 6. And if it lands in 1, it will flip whatever goes in 2. And if Midas goes in 2, he can't have flipped anything. So that's a win for Chicony. Midas cannot go in 6. Now, I think there's interesting ideas in 2, given that 6 is dead for Chicony, right? and given that 7764 has this plus wall potential in 4. So for instance, one move that came to mind for me was 6861 and 2. That keeps it 5-5. If Chicony sticks anything in 6, then 7764 in 4 is going to flip 5, which is going to flip 8, and it's going to flip 6. And Chicony will only double capture back. It will have been up 8-2, and so I think Midas wins there. So after 2, Chicony cannot go in 6. Sorry for the extensive calculation, but this game is a really complicated calculation fest. So that's 5-5. Actually, how does Chicony survive? What am I missing? Because if Chicony goes in 4, he can go up 6-4, but he presumably loses to 7764 and 6. Oh, that only flips 2 back. Okay, so if 6861 and 2, say 2686 and 4, or say 4867 and 4, that makes it 6-4. Yeah, that should tie. Alright, so I think there are ties there. So 2 is an appealing option. Midas went a different way. He went in 4, which flips 5, which in turn flips 8. Again, this card in 5 is so tremendously important. And he does sneak out of here with a tie. Chicony goes in 6. Again, we see just how good his cards are at sweeping the top row. Both 4867 and 2686, depending on the line we looked at, had incredible sweeping powers. Now 2686 and 2 is of course too big a threat to allow, so Midas has to block 2, and again, Chicony has a sufficient sweeper to get the tie here. Really complex, interesting game. One of those ones where, I've taken 15 minutes on it, but I'm sure the players used up all their thinking time on this one, because this was very complex stuff. So, really interesting tie in that one. We move on to another game. This time Midas' his first turn. Similar hands here. Midas has made some tweaks. Chicony's hand looks the same. Midas still not bringing a ton of elementals, both of the potential +1 and 9, and no potential +1s elsewhere. And Midas starts 5, 7, 8, 4, and 1, which I think is pretty clearly the starter his hand is built to begin with. I'm a little skeptical of this starter. Now, maybe it was the cleanest way to work out a hand, right? His 4-7-5-7 is sort of a side-to-side. His 8-6-1-6 is really good power going up, obviously. Though with Elemental on, like the 8-6-6s lose some steam, because normally they're so reliable at taking anything. Obviously here one of the cards can have 9s, but most of the cards don't have 9s. And with Elemental on, suddenly they're not near as reliable at taking 7s, because if they land on an Elemental spot, they suddenly can't flip 7s. But the reason I'm skeptical is because you have 2 level 6s and 2 level 7s. And if you're intending to use a 7-8 corner as a starter, I feel like you could do it as one of your level 6s, right? That's a power level you can get at level 6. But maybe the other cards wouldn't have fit as well, and a card can be a starter and a card you get out of your hand on first turn, but maybe have some things you can do with on second turn. So perhaps I shouldn't be skeptical. I would just be thinking, if this was my plan, could I get away with it as the level 6? But probably this is a very minor thought. So we'll notice Midas has really good captures. Chicony has a very good capture from 2 and an overpower from 4. So thinking similar to the last game, we might think how to set up to have 4 from 7, and there's not really a natural fit there. The hand is not that comfortable at taking the 8. There could also be a setup in 5. 8, 7, 3, 4, and 5 springs to mind as possible. But, you know, it does set up a plus for the opponent in 2. And 2, 6, 8, 6 landing in 4 is your big combo. May get comboed back kind of hard by 8, 6, 1, 6 in some lines. I can get not wanting to go in 5. I tend to try not to go in 5 if I don't have to. But Chicony here decides he has it well under control and can start building out his own hand. And what he notices is Midas's hand doesn't have very much power to the right. Right? He's given up a lot of power going right. And again, 5, 6, 7, 7 can just be this sort of powerful force in the middle of the board that's just genuinely difficult to take. The 7 facing down, as we said, the 8, 6 doesn't have the capture there. The 9, 6, 2, 8 does and has the combo, but it gets comboed back. And there's actually not much down power either. There's no combo in 3. So if we looked at this position and think Midas just gave up a ton of his down and right power, how can Chicony exploit this? Well, you'd think go in kind of 6, 8, or 9, but 9 has an element in it, and the cards Chicony can put there that get the plus from the element are reasonably well controlled by Midas's hand, and maybe he wants to keep on it to hold on of Ifrit longer because it's the only capture in 4. It seems logical to hold on to. You start looking at 6 and 8, and this is a quite annoying card for Midas to meet. Midas goes in 8, and I think there's a whole bunch of options here, right? Chicony can take. Though if he takes, I think, say with 8, 7, 3, 4, I think Midas's point is 9, 6, 2, 8, and 7 recaptures, and both of those are safe. If he takes with 4, 8, 6, 7, I'm not as sure what the response is, because that's actually safe to Midas's hand, right, due to the elements. But there might be a big setup against it. No, I don't think there is. Against 8, 7, 3, 4, and 8, as well as having the nice move of Ifrit in 7, he could also play Ifrit in 4, both flipping a card that's kind of useful to have flipped because it's hard to capture for you later, but also setting up pluses in both 5 and 7 against 8. So lots of play against 8, 7, 3, 4. 4, 8, 6, 7, and 8 looks to me promising. It's just so hard for Midas to go down or right. I don't see where his play is there. So that seems like an interesting idea. In the game, Chicony went in 3, which also is safe to Midas's hand. I prefer grabbing the card in 9, I guess, but this looks very strong. And again, Midas is under a lot of pressure here. This is a difficult spot. 9 is in danger. You don't actually have safety in 2. Your cards mostly face away from the action of the game. It's kind of tempting to go 2 just because that makes 1 safe. But anything you put in 2 is quite vulnerable. You're just defending so many spots. So I think Midas makes a really good decision to lock in the card in 9 and say, okay, I also now have a threat in 5, and my 4, 7, 5, 7 is really good in both 5 and 7. Now, of course, Chicony's 4, 8, 6, 7 is good in those squares as well, but generally, each player having a card for a set of paired squares is going to favor the first turn player, and Midas is on first turn, so this should work out okay. And actually, 8, 6, 1, 6 is a pretty nice card to have here, because it can threaten things like the 5, 7, 8, 4. Recapture or anything that goes in 2. Chicony blocks 5. Another move to maybe consider is 2, 6, 8, 6, and 2 is safe, keeps the game 5, 5. But then 8, 6, 1, 6, and 4 can't lose because 4, 7, 5, 7 is both squares very nicely. So Midas has set up a kind of nice combo there with the threatened 5, and Chicony blocks the square. And also sets up a potential combo in 4. These games are so difficult to calculate. So now if Midas plays either card in 2, Due to the element in 2, that will be weak to 1 and will lose to the combo from 4, 8, 6, 7, and 4. So Midas cannot go in 2. If he goes in 4, he flips 1 card, but then 4, 8, 6, 7 in 2 flips back a ton of cards. So to tie here, I believe he has to go in 7. And that gives just enough steam to tie. Is this not a loss? Oh, of course it's not a loss. I was thinking 2, 6, 8, 6, and 4, but that flips too many cards because that has the plus, so it flips 1 as well and gets comboed back. So you can't do 2, 6, 8, 6, and 4. You can't flip the extra card. And in fact, you have to go in 2, which Midas, I assume, does, and we get a tie. Again, complex, tricky lines. Nice play. These are good games. I do wonder, I think there's a chance, again, I'm so bad at calculating these. Why doesn't 4, 8, 6, 7, and 8 win? It feels close to a win. 9, 6, 2, 8 in Ifrit, and so if 4, 8, 6, 7 in 8, Ifrit in 7 might sneak out. I'm not sure. It's hard to calculate. I think that would have been another dangerous line. Not sure it works. Let's move on to the third game of this set. Really good match, really complex games. So obviously the 8-6-5-6 here gives me nightmares because Piggy beat me with that card on a fire element, and we may be seeing that fire element come good here too. Chicony has 2 potential +1s. Midas continues to be a man after my own heart, much less interested in the elementals. And Midas' first turn, and he goes 6, 8, 6, 1, and 7, which looks to me like a real good starter. 2, 6, 8, 9 is the only card that can capture from 8, and Midas has the combo back with 9, 5, 2, 9, and 9. And that's safe, and combos back. Due to the element, the only capture in 4, Chicony's hand, not so good going down. The only capture is also 2, 6, 8, 9. So the hand is very, very reliant on 2, 6, 8, 9 at this point. And I think, from Midas' perspective, his next move is likely to be, by default, I would think likely to be something in 4. But actually, it's a little hard to go in 4 due to the element, because Chicony will have 6, 7, 7, 5 in 1. And while that's not safe, it forces Minotaur out of Midas' hand, which is a card he'll really want to hold on to for the endgame there if Midas wants to capture. So maybe it's not easy to build out from this starter. Maybe it's not so easy. But it feels like a powerful starter to me. I like how Chicony reacts. He notes it's hard for Midas to go in 4 without giving Chicony some ground. So it's not trivial for Midas to build out and say, you don't have a capture from 8. And it says 8-7-5-3 is doing nothing for me this game. It just has so little facing the action. I'm just going to get it out of my hand and see what comes next. And so my instinct is Midas here is to go 7, 7, 6, 4, and 4, as said. But I think 6, 7, 7, 5 in 1 might be annoying. Then say 9, 5, 2, 9, and 2 is going to make it 6, 4 Midas. But Chicony has so many things to attack, it's hard to imagine he's in that much trouble there, though he might be, but I don't think so. Because it's really hard for like 6-1-8-7 to ever land in 6, or 4-8-7-6 to land in 6, because 8-6-5-6 is plus walls against both. I suspect there's enough control of space for that, for Midas to be okay there. Or sorry, for Chicony to be okay there. So that would be my first instinct, but I don't think it's very good. I think it's really important that Chicony's move in 3, did not set Midas up in 2 to control 1. Another move that springs to mind is 7, 7, 6, 4, and 8, but of course this would be very foolish because my point was 2, 6, 8, 9, and 4. I have a same in 5, but same is not a rule that is on. And if I made mistakes, I don't think I made any mistakes on sames in the last game, but I easily could have. Midas ends up going in 9. And I don't think this sets up quite enough combo potential. It does get a card out of his hand that's not going to have much use this game, and it does set up a plus and 6. But that plus and 6 is probably never going to combo anything extra. And we're sort of now locked into a bunch of cards that do one thing at a time. Like 9-5-2-9 is really good in 8, but maybe not so good anywhere else. And 7-7-6-4 is really good in 6, but maybe not so good anywhere else. And 4-8-7-6 faces the action, but with the elements where they are, I'm not sure how much stuff it's going to hit very well. So, I don't know. And I think Chicony makes a nice move here, just grabbing safety where he can, and also saying you can't play 9-5-2-9 and 8 without walking into combo. So there's a bunch of tries here from Midas. He can go in 2, which I believe he did. Yeah, so we'll come back to 2. The other standard square to go in is 8. If 9-5-2-9 and 8, then I assume 8-6-5-6 and 5 is really powerful. Note, Midas has no recapture in 4 anymore. He used his only recapture for 4. So that seems very dangerous without having looked at it in too much depth. If 7-7-6-4 in 8, two, 6, 8, 9 in 4 looks quite interesting. It threatens a really powerful plus in 5 with 8-6-5-6. And if Midas blocks 5, he can't block 5 with 4-8-7-6 because there's no same, it flips nothing. And if he blocks 5 with 9-5-2-9, that's susceptible to a huge combo by 6-7-7-5. Does that lose, though? 7-7-6-4 and 8, 2-6-8-9 and 4. Chicony leads 6-4. 9-5-2-9 and 5. Flips 1 card back, makes it 5-5. If 6-7-7-5 and 2, that combos 2 cards, 7-3. But 4-8-7-6 takes 2 back at the end. Might be a tie. I'm not sure. Regardless, Midas goes in 2. And I think Chicony finds a really phenomenal move here. Again, so careful of the elements, and just aware that, 4-8-7-6 does not have the capture in 4. He plays 8, capturing 7, and note, both 7 and 6 are safe, even though they're kind of open to the board. And Midas has 2 cards locked in 3 and 9, but he has no play left, and he's can't really attack the stuff. 9-5-2-9 and 5 doesn't actually flip anything. So after that, it would be 5-5, and Chicony can play either card in 1, going up 6-4, and Midas loses. If 4-8-7-6 and 5, that makes it 6-4, but that's susceptible to a plus with 6-7-7-5, and 9-5-2-9 is just dead. If 9-5-2-9 in 4, that is a card that can be captured back both ways from 1, but the problem is, there's a plus in 5, and so while 4-8-7-6 and 1 captures back both 2 and 4, it doesn't combo back 2. So if 8-6-5-6 lands in 5, it combos 2, flips 3 as well, and 4-8-7-6 and 1 isn't enough to tie that game. If 4-8-7-6 and 4, 9-5-2-9 and 1 is too weak, it's not doing anything. If 9-5-2-9 in 1, then 8-6-5-6 in 5, due to the combo, the plus flips 2 cards and wins. And if 4-8-7-6 in 1, then 8-6, 5-6, and 5 wins pretty easily. So I thought this was a really nicely found win because I don't think it's the obvious kind of card to grab. I think here it's pretty easy to go like 2, 6, 8, 9, and 1, or some other move like that that's just like safe, grabs a card, feels good, and I don't think is near as strong. So really nicely found win in a difficult match, and I think these were all just really tricky games to calculate, as possibly could be told from my lack of sureness in much of the calculation. And I think really calculation heavy games. There's something about the way this was split level and also the elementals that I think just made these really tricky to calculate. And Chicony played it so well. And Midas played it really well too. Like in this final game, I think Chicony converts really well. This very difficult position for Midas to defend. He finds a nice move in 8. And I think clearly the best game of the trio. Midas plays a wonderful reply to Chicony's starter. I think, 3 is fantastic. And then Chicony finds this just incredible move in 8, where suddenly 6 is a trap. 5, 6, 7, 7, and 5 is too strong. He's too good a feeling for the elements here. And Midas has to find a way to survive in 7. And even then it's a bit tricky, but he does find it. And Chicony, such a good sense of having these sweepers, of just playing a card in 5. There were so many lines where 5, 6, 7, 7 lands in 5 will go to a position where it has. And Midas has just so little play against it, and it sets up so many pluses, either on the board, as you can see here, or sometimes against potential moves Midas would play. For instance, if 9, 5, 2, 9 hasn't landed in 7 yet. Really nice feel for the way 5 interfaces with so many squares and interacts with them. And just having it to be difficult to take for Midas and so much combo potential for Chicony meant even if you're letting Midas lock in a whole bunch of cards, rarely will you see a position where a player has taken 3, 6, 9, 8, and 7, and the other player just has 5, and the player with just 5 is winning because they have so much combo potential and control of the remaining squares that he can concede having locked in lots of cards for future play on the board. And this is kind of how I think of aggressive versus defensive play, where defensive play is very much focused on, can I lock in things on the board, and aggressive play is very much focused on controlling space and stuff that could be put on the board in the future. And I think of Chicony as a defensive player, and he certainly does himself, but I think this move in 8, and just the ideas of playing in 5 after, is a magnificent, aggressive concept, really finding a way to put huge pressure on all the cards Midas could play on the board. Really cool concept, really nice use of elemental. I hope you enjoyed these games. I think this is a really solid contender for the best match of the tournament. Even though they only played 2 closed games, they tied them. Midas surrendered the match after losing an open game. It wasn't as long a match as the others, but it was still 7 games long, 5 open games, 2 closed. That's very much a worthy length for a match, and I'm going to give this a lot of credit in my video talking about best matches of the tournament, because I think I think it's clearly one of the best 3 matches of the tournament, and I haven't thought much about how I'd rank those 3, but this is a serious contender for best match of the tournament. I hope you enjoyed looking at the games.